Simon Sinek says friendship is the ultimate biohack. Yet friendship is misunderstood these days. My guest is parenting expert and best-selling author Dr. Michele Borba, who has appeared on the Today Show more than 150 times. We'll explore how to help children understand what real friendship means, how to build and maintain friendships, and how to guide them in choosing friends wisely. Stay tuned. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Madelynblair, and this is Unlocked, a show all about unlocking the resilient leader in you. Today we're beginning a special 3-part series on friendship, a topic that Simon Sinek says is the ultimate biohack. I couldn't agree more. Over the next 3 months, we'll explore friendship in childhood, in the teen years, and finally in the workplace and beyond. Friendship fixes problems like anxiety, depression, and stress. With loneliness an epidemic, we need to regain the original meaning of the word friends. We need to stop counting them and start caring for them. My guest today is someone you've loved on this show before, Dr. Michele Borba. Michele is an educational psychologist, parenting expert, and former classroom teacher who has spoken to over 1 million parents and educators in 28 countries. She's appeared more than 150 times on the Today Show, and her work has been featured in the New York Times, Dr. Phil, Washington Post, Time, and Dateline. And she's got all kinds of books. In particular, I have to say, these two, very special, Unselfie and Thrivers, just great books.
Thank you.
Michele.
I'm so glad to be back, Madeline. You have no idea. This is going to be so fun. And gosh, what an important topic. Oh.
Yes. We have, because we use that word friend all the time. How many friends do you have? It's lost that original meaning, which was so precious. So, all right. I'm just going to jump right in. You know that.
Go for it. Go for it.
Your 2 amazing books are so powerful in laying out what a child needs to thrive and succeed. Our topic today is helping, I'll call them kids. How's that? That gives kind of broadens it a little bit. Helping them build friendships. But I would like so much to begin with a story from the epilogue of Unselfie. It's the story of when a child feels deeply for another and the remarkable activity of the teacher introducing something called time for spotlight. Could you describe that?
Well, first of all, this glorious teacher of Chicago, middle school teacher, history. Now, he's a brilliant history teacher, Madeline, unbelievable. But he does something that he always thinks is also critical for the kids to be able to be more engaged, not only with their work, but also with each other. He calls it spotlight. And I happened to be able to walk into that classroom, sit down, and he briefly whispered and said, this is something we always do right before the bell rings. So as soon as he said, okay, kids, it's time for spotlight, they put their history books down and everybody starts picking up their chairs, putting it in a great big circle. One kid he calls the name of, sits in the middle of the circle, Noah, and she gets so excited. And then he says, okay, Noah. Every kid around the circle then begins to say something that's a compliment or something uplifting about Noah. And it was just like a 1-minute interaction, but the change in Noah was absolutely profound. All the kids are smiling and laughing, and it's absolutely great. It's friendship building. It's social skills in action. They're practicing right there with the guise of a teacher who's helping them out. By the way, they'd been working on what the heck to say that was positive for months, but they finally were able to do it on their own free time and get it. And then he says, okay, you know what? We have 1 more minute. Let's call one more kid because It's almost time for the bell, but we have extra time. And so he pulls their name out of a hat. And all of a sudden you see a change because the student's name, let's just call him Henry. He does sit down in the circle, but the rest of the kids start to get a little tense because you see Henry being very tense. He goes to the chair, but his whole body torques over. His anxiety level, you could see, was really high. He starts to grip his little nails up against the back and forth against his knees. And teacher says, okay, let's start saying some things about Henry. And kids watch him. You could see empathy. Oh, Madeline, you could see empathy. They were really feeling for this kid. And so what they did was slow the pace down. They began to say genuine, kind things at a slower level, like he likes to do this or she likes to do that. And what happened, though, was absolutely mind-boggling. You watch this child who was so tense and just like this in a pistol, all of a sudden, within seconds, start to breathe. As the compliments started more and the kids began to realize he can handle it, so they began to be more and more genuine and a little bit more specific, he started to sit up until finally you saw this amazing thing happen. He smiled. He was relaxed. And then I'll never forget the next part. Oh my God. He stood up, went to the teacher, and said, thank you. You have no idea. This class means the world to me. And then the kid next to me starts to give me Kleenex because I'm crying. She pats me on the back and she said, you know, this class is his only hope. You should see what he has to go home to. And we realized at that moment, my gosh, just a 1 minute interaction of teaching that child the rest of the kids' social skills was helping that one child to be able to sit up, be straight. The anxiety went away, and he saw himself as an okay person.
I love that story. And I have to tell you, it reminded me of a story I once heard from a Native American who
Oh,
said that in their culture, in that particular person's culture, when someone did something wrong, they did it wrong, they would do exactly that. They would set them in the middle of the circle and they would
yes.
tell that person how they contributed
Oh,
to the tribe.
yeah.
I mean,
Yep. And we do the opposite, don't we? We
correct.
forget to do the simple things. The other thing that I think was so brilliant about the teacher is that he realized that kids may not know those skills. And
Yes.
so I looked at the poster behind me and there were lists of compliments you could say to one another. What are genuine, kind things? And then he kept adding them on. It wasn't like he was taking up an hour and a half to teach. Now we're going to teach compliments, but he wove it in. And that's
Yeah.
what we can do on a day-to-day basis, because one crucial step of friendship that we may be overlooking is that it is made up of social skills. Those are what we may call as soft skills. They're not. These are life skills that are absolutely crucial, and they're being overlooked in today's world.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I think you've just said this, friendship represents empathy. And we just talked about that. One of the things we tend to think that our children can't understand, I think that's part of our difficulties that we don't give our kids credit for what they can understand.
Oh,
Yes.
Madeline, at the youngest age, I'll never forget one day. I have three sons, but I'll never forget when they were like one of them. I was very upset. I just found out my mom had Alzheimer's, and I was just sobbing. I couldn't handle the what I just heard. And I remember my 2-year old crawling up on my lap, patting my tears, and then running to get a Band-Aid to put on it because he felt it, he saw it. He didn't be able to say, Mom, you're really upset, let's do something about it. Where my older one, my 4-year-old would say, Mom, you look really sad. But the venture of it is empathy starts at a young age, and it starts by just recognizing the other person. But we've got to do a lot better job because empathy levels in our children are nosediving. You know that? I mean, here's the seeds of what makes a humane society, what makes a healthy population. It's the highest correlation to resilience and to be able to be a well-being. We've got a loneliness epidemic that is just skyrocketing. Depression is skyrocketing from it. But now you weave back and you go, we can't do anything about it. Sure you can. You start by just talking emotions. You look sad. You look happy. You can be feeling detectives when you go to a grocery store.
Yeah.
Let's look for people who look happy. Point it out. It's like not like you have this, okay, in the next hour, we're going to talk empathy. It's woven in. My gosh, you can watch the movie Inside Out. How great is that? Or you can watch commercials, which we all hate, turn off the volume and just be charade detectives for 2 minutes. How do you think he
Yeah.
feels? Look at his emotions. It's just simple little things to weave in.
Oh my goodness. Well, we've been talking about friendship kind of indirectly with empathy, but I wonder if you could just spend a minute to talk about your definition of friendship and as it relates to children. I mean, you said, empathy on kids and friends as nosedive. What does
Well, I
that mean?
think the most important thing about a friend is that it's somebody who's there for you. They build you up, and you can ask a kid, sometimes they choose the wrong one. Is she helping you or hurting you? And it's like one of the things in life that's so critical. They're there for you. The other thing about friends that I think is a really essential thing, that you don't have to be the most popular kid in your class to be fine. You don't need dozens of friends. Look at us. We don't need dozens, but we choose the ones that are there for us, that we can count on, that if we had a problem, we can go call them on the phone and they're there. And that's what we need to make sure that our children need, because too often what we're doing is helping them find friends online. In fact, one of the most dismal thing I saw, Madeline, was the 70% of our kids are going to AI friends. 70%. That's the latest thing that came out last week. And I went, oh my God, there goes real live face-to-face connections. That's how you build the friends. And that's where we need to start. One other little thing, when parents go, I can't make a difference on my kid's friends, you can too. There's a fabulous research that says, yeah, it's harder when they're a little older, but friends when you're younger are based on proximity. He's my best friend because he lives next door, or she's my best friend because she's in my class. She's my best friend because mom takes me to her home. Proximity is how you begin to build. Later on, when your kids are a little older, it's harder to get face-to-face connection with the kid next door, but you choose friends based on similarity. She's in my same class, or she likes the same things I like, or we both like to play chess. Similarity. And that means when your child looks like they're lonely, one of the best things you can do is look for her natural strengths and find an extracurricular activity that's based on that similar strength. Not that she's going to have individual tutoring on piano, but she's going to have piano or guitar lesson in a group, because she's more likely to find another friend because she has the same strength or interest.
Oh, I love that because it's kind of a double whammy. What
Yeah.
you want to do is find the friend, and then you build on their strengths, which means
Yes.
they're feeling a sense of accomplishment and
Yeah.
strength and
Yeah.
identity. So all
And
those things
and it's a togetherness. You have
come
something in
together.
common. And
Yeah,
that's a key point of friends. Another one of those characteristics. What's the commonality that you share? You may have lots of other things that are different, say different culture, different, nationality, different educational, but what's your commonality?
yeah.
That
Ah,
builds.
I love it. And that commonality, as you say, could simply be that they're next door so that you
Mm-hmm.
can interact with them on a regular basis. Or maybe it's somebody who has who has their hair the way you have your hair, because it's a similar kind of thing. That's
Yeah.
great because that's easy
Yeah.
to see and perceive. It's not, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and by the way, and that's one of the most important reasons why when kids these days are always pointing out the differences when you see somebody, he looks so different than you. Yeah, he may look different. He may have a different skin color. He may have a different hairstyle. So look for what you have in common.
Yeah.
What's the same thing you have and share? And maybe that'll help boot it up a little bit anyway.
Which goes back to your point about bringing the child to something they have strength in where they can work with others. So if it's a piano, learning the piano in a group, well, so and so who looks very different from you is in fact does play the piano. So you have that commonplace.
Well,
Now,
there's one other thing on that, Madeline.
yeah,
Remember, we just talked about extracurricular activities. One of the things we need to do as parents is make sure that we carve in time for extracurricular activities. Our kids are so bomb that they don't have any time for something called friends. Play dates are out of their lives. Extracurricular activities are there, but they're all test driven.
Programmed.
What's going to help get the application form? And as a result, what happens is that fun, free, relaxed time just to be together isn't there. And that's what kids need. By the way, that's what grown-ups need as well. So it's across the board.
It is across the board. Which I think is why parents think they need to program their kids, because they program themselves. Gosh. Now, this is a tougher question. How can you begin to teach a child how to make and determine what makes a good friend? I mean, after all, you said, okay, we can begin that friendship, but when and how do you teach the child that this is a person they should stay with and really invest in?
Well, the first thing is, remember, a lot of our kids don't have friends, so it's going to be a hard haul to do. But one of the researchers came out with it saying modeling is really essential and we don't do it nearly enough. Open your mouth and begin by describing your friends. I really like her because she's there for me. Or, oh, I'm going to call Barbara again because she's always supporting me. Or, gosh, I don't want to mess around with Anne anymore because every time I talk to her, she's gossiping about others and puts me down. She doesn't seem to be a good friend. What you're actually doing is putting in some little lessons along the way that help a child learn what a good friend is and what a good friend is not. And I think we may be overlooking that. It's just simple in terms of your own life. Literature, by the way, is fabulous. Children's literature is highly correlated, hint, hint, to boosting empathy levels with kids. And by the way, the majority of our kids are not reading for pleasure these days. So pull out books, because not only can they help a child learn vocabulary and reading, but they can also help a child learn about friendship. Go to your children's reference librarian. They are a godsend. Say, yes, I have a child who's 9, he's a boy or she's a girl, and here's some things that I want to do. I'd love to have a few books about what a good friend is, and they'll give you a pile of wonderful books. Then you begin to have those discussions about what good friends are. That's the beginning, I think, is good friends, poor friends, they build you up. They don't take you down. Hey, looks like when you're at a play date or your child is with you on a play date and you can point out, how'd that go? Did you feel good when you were with your friend? Did he build you up? Did he say good things about you? Oh, doesn't sound like she was being really a good friend because she didn't share. Or it looks like every time you wanted to play a game that she never would go with what you wanted or listen to you. You know, good friends, they share and they take turns and they listen. So you're just, again, showing them what is the good and the poor so they can make better selections.
That means you have to think about your friends.
Oh, it does, doesn't it?
And as you're talking about that, I'm thinking to myself, okay, Madeline, who are your friends? Who do you consider to be really close friends? And what is it about them? And this is a really interesting question to ask ourselves, because I'm going to go do that, because I think I don't have little kids anymore in the house, but you can teach people at any age.
You sure can, because I think the first thing we need to recognize here, we're talking about adults for a minute. The loneliness epidemic is huge among us. And that means we're not carving in enough time for just finding who those people are that build us up. And I know time is crucial. Time, we don't have it. So what do? We look for the people who do build us up, and we figure out if we just had a few friends, who are the ones we want to surround around us. Because not only is it going to help our own well-being, it's going to help us parent our kids better, because well-being just kind of buffles over, which gets to another point of once we're trying to find a new friend, what do we do and how do we do it? And I think we need to look back. Duke University has been doing some of the best, Madeline. What they've been looking at is children who don't have friends, who are more isolated. How do they find and boost friends? And I think the first thing that's really an important thing is that back to friendship making is learned. It's made up of skills, but the most important beginning one is introducing yourself to a new kid. How do I find a new friend? And they find that the most critical thing is show the kid, don't tell the kid. Modeling. Norma Feshbach's work at UCLA was brilliant. She'd actually role play it. Now, you want to make a new friend? Here's what I do. I say, hi, how are you? My name is, and you role play it for a few times, never once. Or I've seen one dad said, my kid really was having problems making friends. We'd go to parks, and I did that on purpose because I'd look around and I'd find somebody who looked like, as a kid, was a good friend, and I'd say, oh, watch that kid. Watch how she interacts with the other. Oh, she walks right up. She has a smile on her face and she says, hi, my name is. Wow, that's a good thing to do. So you're showing how to do it, because what happens is build your child's repertoire of going, oh, that's the first thing. I remember I used to go outside the door and knock on the door, have my kids open it, and then I'd role play. Hi, my name is, what's yours? But the beginning younger kids, that's crucial, because they really are kind of not really secure sometimes in how do you make the friend. That's the first thing, is just introduce yourself to one another. How do you do it? The next thing is, the biggest friendship robber is kids, says the old I used to be a teacher for a long time, and I'd watch out on the recess. Kids would barge into a different group and want to play, and it would backfire. But the trick is, you say, okay, you walk up to, you want to be in that game? Okay, walk up to them and stay a little bit. Now stand. Watch to see if there's one kid who looks to you, who has a smile on their face. That's the first thing. If they look like they're happy to see you, then you can walk towards that child and say, can I play on the game? But if everybody has a not friendly face and they don't look like they want you there, walk on and walk to another group.
Oh, I think that is terrific advice, because
Yeah.
it is something that the child, once they understand that, they can see for themselves immediately the reactions, and they know how to make that judgment. This person's frowning, frowning, frowning. Oh, that one's smiling. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna try that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it gives them the other thing we just talked about is you're also reading emotional cues, like we talked a little bit a while ago, because otherwise it backfires, and kids over and over again bombard themselves into an existing group. Once play is in fortune, I don't care if you're playing a hopscotch or soccer, once the game is already started, it's not a great time to barge in
Margin.
unless you really see a friendly person. And then you can say, is it okay if I play?
Sometimes a child will connect with another because, in a way, that person is so attractive, they kind of, pardon my terrible English, but they glomp onto your child,
Yep.
and your child doesn't know how to extricate themselves. What are some thoughts about that kind of situation where you really want to help the child understand they don't have to tolerate that?
Well, first, I think that's the first thing you need to be really clear upon. Again, back to the conversation, if friends build you up, not, you know,
Yeah.
not glop you down. But there's some other things that you may want to do. I think the first thing is keep in mind that kids act differently in different social settings. So you may be seeing your child in a play date setting, but you're not seeing how he or she acts on the recess or in the playground. One of your best gold mines is the classroom teacher. Have a little 5-minute connection with the teacher and say, how's it going with John and Sally? Are they getting along? Do you see that as a good relationship? That teacher can also be the one to say yes or no, or here's what I see, it's valuable or not, which would give you a clue to go, okay, now let me find another friend for this kid. But another thing that you could also ask the teacher is, who's someone my child is not playing with that may be a good interaction for them? Teachers are a gold mine. You do not have to wait for the conference 4 months from now. Just call up or email and say, do you have 5 minutes that I can talk to you about one thing? And they'll be very happy to help you out.
I like that second strategy. Is there a child in the classroom that would make a good friend for my child,
Yeah.
which gives the teacher the opportunity to avoid the difficulty of saying they're not getting along or something like that.
Mhm.
There's some teachers would be sensitive to that. Some school systems might even be sensitive to that. So I love the idea that you've turned it into a positive. Where's the child
Where's
that
the child? Because, Madeline, the problem is once you say you can't play with that kid who's glopping onto you, you need a replacer. Otherwise, the kid's too lonely and needs somebody instead. So here's another person that you can hang around with, and there's lots of other kids you can hang around with. Your teacher could be one. The other thing that I think is a gold mine that we overlook is parents who are in our kids' classrooms. Befriend those mothers. Have tea or coffee or wine with them, because those who have other kids your same age can become caveats to a good friend for your child.
Yeah. Okay. Phew. So many strategies.
Yeah.
There really are. And what I love is that every one of them is, I'll call it easy.
Oh,
You
I think, yeah.
just have to decide to do it.
You do. You have to decide. It's always a matter of intentionally saying that's the skill he's missing. And then say, so how am I going to weave it in? And realize it's a minute a day, but you keep repeating the same thing by role playing it or pointing it out or showing it. In fact, the best analogy I've ever saw was it was a social psychologist who said, when you teach skills to kids, you never use a worksheet. It goes out the door. They don't learn it by worksheets. They learn it by, he said, the best way to teach it is pretend you're a football coach. They never say to the kid, hey, here's a football, go throw it. Instead, what they always do is say, okay, here, come on over here. I want to show you something. Watch me. And the coach will throw the football a little bit. And then he said, now you show me. And he gives the football to the kid. Show me. No. Here's how to do it a little bit better. Okay, good. Now practice a little bit more over there and I'll watch you. Okay, you got it. Now you're on your own. And that's the same with the friendship skill. You don't use it as a football coach with a football, but instead, watch me. I'm going to show you, or I'm going to show you what other kids are doing, or I'll show you a clip from that movie. Now you show me and let's role play it together. And now, great, you got it. Now go play with your friend or your brother, or teach the puppy, which is a great strategy. You got it. Now go off to your play date and have a good time. But it's repetition until the kid feels comfortable and can do it on their own. That's your gold star of the parenting. I did it. He's transferred it.
I'll never forget one time. I think my grandson was 3, and he was at a Christmas party, and and he walked up to people and said, "How do you do? I'm Sean." And I thought, wow, who taught him that? Obviously, his parents did. So they can learn even at 3.
Oh, I think the first thing that you just said clearly, which is a lovely story, is we start too late. The sooner we start, the better, and easy little things that we can do so that they feel first, what your grandson did, comfortable with another human being.
Yeah.
And then you can add skills on, but slowly until that comfort level keeps going until they can do it without you.
Now, you've hinted at this particular topic, but I want us to delve a little bit more deeply into the fact that more and more times, you said 70% of kids have an AI friend. I get terrified when I hear that 70%. Now, I'm sure some of them are just playing, but what's the long-term ramifications of that kind of intervention, I'll call it?
Well, the long-term effects of that, if your child is now going for an AI friend, by the way, the research says because they feel more comfortable with it. That's really, really scary. It is a red flag to us that says, watch out, because again, one of the highest correlations to be able to bounce back, to be able to handle life, resilience is social competence. Let's go to that and then let's look at some other ones in life.
Okay.
This is Emmy Warner. I love this woman. What she did was try to figure out why some kids bounce back and others don't. What makes a kid thrive? And she did, I think, one of the greatest studies known to man in terms of tracking kids from well, actually, she started when they were like grade school and then tracked them for the next 40 years until they became 40 years old to find out, hey, how are they doing? She was tracking kids who were dealing with adverse situations. And she found out the single greatest correlation was social competence. They had at least one caring person in their life, the teacher, the parent, somebody who was there and nurtured them, but they also had social skills. So if your child is AIing his friendship, what that means is, think about it. How's he going to do in the workplace? How's he going to do in relationships? How's he going to find a partner or a spouse? Everything is going to be doomed because he hasn't practiced the real skills and being able to get along. Also, it's the highest anxiety producer there is, because when you're in a social setting, what we're discovering for that child and he doesn't have the skills or he doesn't have the friend, anxiety begins to go up. Way up. He now becomes hyper vigilant, says research. He can't think about others because he's thinking about himself, because he's so tuned into, I can't do it. His confidence level has absolutely spiraled. So when you're beginning to see why that same child is heightened level for mental health problems, heightened level for depression, heightened level for suicidology. So in reality, it's all back to why friends matter.
As you were talking about the impact of AI, what occurred to me as kind of in between what you said, it's more comfortable for that child to interact with that AI entity. I think for a couple of reasons. One is that it's very private. Nobody knows about that relationship except you and that computer.
Yeah.
And the other is that it's been programmed to be
Yes.
genial.
Yes.
And yet when I look at kids who are resilient, they have there's some sand in that grits at them. They have to have some pressure back so that they not just can do it, but they
Yes.
know that they have the strength to do it.
Yes. Yes, I think it's a toolkit that they have along the way. And I think we misinterpret it going, okay, I'm going to teach him these three skills. So when any adversity comes, he can bounce back. It's a lot of skills that you need because you never know what kind of adversity you're going to have. But when the adversity comes, I can handle it. What's happening with these kids with AI? Let's go back to that again. The average kid is now plugged in about 7.5 hours a day to some kind of a digital device. So real-time interactions are depleting in that child's life. Real-time ways to just be able to listen, to be able to talk, to be able to communicate, to be able to say, I like it, I don't like it. Please stop doing that. Please do. As a result is they're not having those practice opportunities. They're another combination. They're lacking sleep as a result if they're 7.5 hours.
Yeah.
Plus, think about all the extracurricular activities they are. It all boils down to how much time does your child have for real-time interactions for real people so he can get along with others and practice and feel safe and secure about who he is? How about in your own family? How often does he have to be able to connect and talk with you? I think one of the most critical things we do as parents is sit down and say, how often is he plugged in? So when can we unplug him or her so there's real-time opportunities? That's a critical piece in life as well, because we overlook those little things. And then what are we going to substitute? Because one of the big kids will say is, but that's what I am good at. Right, he is good at Minecraft, but what else can he do? Start substituting them with other kids so he has a chance to have a better life and become a human being.
Gosh, when you said that about Minecraft, it's they want the achievement, but
Yes.
and once they get that, then it's easy for them to stay there and feel that good sense of achievement. And part of the challenge, and I found this myself with my daughter when I was raising her, how do I give her challenges just enough that test her so that she's pushing the edge? And maybe it's new, maybe it's to another level, but something that gives her that sense of accomplishment, not
Yep.
just in what she's doing, but that she did it.
Yes. And there's so many things. I mean, service learning can be, that sounds like, oh my gosh, there's one more thing on your application. No, what we find is that kids working together on a service project that they care about, that's meaningful, not only gives them a sense of purpose, but helps them practice friendship skills. The other thing, Madeline, I think is I'm just going to segue into this one because I think a lot of parents go, how do I do this? It just sounds so hard. Again, back to one of the best things I've ever seen in my life was up at a third grade classroom in Alberta, Canada. And I was in servicing all the staff on social, emotional learning and friendship making skills. And the superintendent said, go into the third grade, you're going to see the most brilliant way to teach friendship making and social skills that you'll ever going to see. Oh, well, how do you turn that down? I walked into the classroom and all the kids are eagerly sitting around this great big green rug. Oh, that's the cutest thing. And I walk in, I'm standing by myself. And the first thing that I went, oh my gosh, this is brilliant, is every kid saw me by myself. And so they patted a place by them so I'd feel included and not left out. That alone was like, oh my gosh. And then I sat down. And the kid next to me all smiled and said, welcome. Teacher's going to be here in a minute. She's waiting outside. And I said, okay. And they all said, but here's our rules. I said, you got rules in here? Yeah. When she comes in, sit real still and don't startle and make sure you smile a lot. I said, why? I said, because she cries a lot. I thought, oh my God, I'm going to report the teacher to social services. But I said, okay, I'm game. Teacher walked in, and I've never seen a more elated group of kids. Oh, their teacher had come. They were so excited. Teacher sat in the middle of the green rug, and for the next 30 minutes, my mouth was open and I couldn't stop crying because the teacher, Madeline, was an 8-month-old baby named Clara. She was teaching the kids emotional literacy. The real teacher was an adult who was standing next to Clara, and to the kids, they all said, our baby has come. They adopted the baby. How does Clara seem to feel today? And the kids started naming every emotion, talk about the cues. They were reading it off the baby's body. She looks sad, or she looks distressed, or she looks frustrated, or she looks anxious. That alone was like, oh my gosh, the higher level of knowing emotional literacy, the higher level you're engaged in the classroom. Voila. But the second thing is, one of the kids goes, oh, she's going to start to cry. I said, and I looked at her, how do you know? The teacher said, how do you know she's going to start to cry? Because her whole body is like this. Do something, do something. What should we do? And one kid said, sit real still. Don't startle. Start to smile, and let's all sing a lullaby. The kids started to sway. They started to sing. They started to smile. Clara didn't miss a beat. I'm singing the lullaby with the kid. Clara starts to smile. And the kid next to me smiles and goes, Clara's learning empathy. Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness.
I said, what do you mean Clara's learning empathy? How do you learn it? He goes, oh, Madeline, I've never heard anything more brilliant. It was the third grader. Because she's learning it from us. You don't learn it from a worksheet. Empathy's a verb. That's why you got to teach it like this, and that's how we're learning it. Oh my God.
Oh my goodness.
No,
Out
the
of the mouth.
program is, by the way, the program's called Roots of Empathy, and it's by Mary Gordon. That baby comes in once a month. The kids learn empathy from that baby, but 800,000 kids have been exposed to the program. Bullying goes down, friendship goes up, inclusion in the classroom goes up. They've done the same thing with prisoners. They don't use babies, they use puppies. And they found that their empathy level goes up when they adopt a dog and they start journaling what works for the dog to be able to just soothe the dog. So when you're looking at it, you go in, I don't want to get pregnant. You don't have to. You can borrow the puppy next door or have your teen go in, babysit the kid next door and say, she's really having some hard times. So watch her carefully. Watch her voice, watch her face to see whether she's getting a little stressed. You can do the same thing when your child is a friend. Watch your friend and you'll know when she gets tired or you'll know when she wants to play a different game. Just watch her. You're watching emotional cues and it starts the whole thing of friendship.
I am still blown away by that
Yeah.
with the green rug.
The green rug.
marvelous.
Mary Gordon started
Good.
that from Canada, and she is brilliant because she realized kids needed empathy, but how are we going to teach it?
How are you going to teach it?
And
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 is
we're
it, is it a book called Roots of
oh, it's a
Empathy?
program.
Oh, it's a whole program.
She does have a book, Roots of Empathy, and you need to get her on your show.
Okay, that's a challenge.
No, she is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful human being. She's
Uh,
glorious.
we've been talking about kids eh, basically from as early as you can you can
Yeah.
interact with them to whatever. But is there a shift, or is it the same when children get into puberty and on into the teens? Well, what's your advice there?
Oh, sure. The what we see is the highest level of bullying in a child's life forever is middle school. We're seeing a little bit meaner scenario. We're seeing kids that realize they need to connect, they need to get along, but you're watching them not know how to connect, and you're seeing loneliness really setting in. So if there's anything that I would do as a parent for middle school, I realize they're wonderful kids. I mean, that's like not
Of
it.
course.
But of course you do, and you love them dearly, but realize they're going through some tough times. This is a tough period in their lives, and they need a little more social interaction. They need to make sure that they have extracurricular activities that are geared to them so that they can build their strengths and connect with others. I think the other thing is if you were going to teach one skill, in fact, I work with hundreds of kids, and I do lots of workshops and assemblies. And kids tell me that one of the best skills that I've ever taught them is called CALM, CALM. And I show them, I said, here's what you need to do. You don't have to ever approve of somebody who's doing something not kind to you or somebody else. In fact, bullying isn't just unkindness, it's cold blooded, intentional cruelty. And it's a pattern, it's going to be repeated. So, what you need to do is, first of all, realize it. Second of all, if you notice that the kid is really keep bullying you, know something. Bullying almost always happens at the same time in the same place. You can avoid that place and that time. If you see that it's always going to be sitting in the back seat of the bus, then sit in the front seat. If it's always going to be in that side of the cafeteria, move yourself to the other side. Also, it doesn't happen around adults. So if you're out on a playground, move closer to the adult supervisors. That's the first thing is helping a kid is situations are critical. As a parent, if your child is being bullied, ask where it's happening and when it's happening. Then you can come up with a plan. It'll always be the same who kids, but the same thing is now you can respond. CALM. If you want to talk to your peer, and this is maybe not a kid who's being a bully, but he's being mean, the first thing is you got to be calm. If you cry or look upset or you pout or you whine, you lose your power. Watch yourself. I know it's hard, but fake it. Put your head up straight, take a deep breath. If you have to turn for 2 seconds and then be calm. The second thing is assert yourself. We'll talk about that in a minute, but you come up with one comeback line that you've rehearsed in the past. You can't do it in the moment, but you teach your kids a few things like stop it or cut it out or I don't want to. Those are fine. L is look them in the eye. Do you know, Madeline? They've done dozens of studies on people who are able to hold their own. And one of the things they've discovered, these are with adults, women, if you say cut it out, cut it out. You hold your head down and you have wimpy posture, you won't get anywhere. And the final thing is you got to make your voice sound like you mean it. Now listen to my voice. I tell kids, stop it, stop it, stop it. Which do you think somebody is going to take more seriously? CALM. Be cool. Assert yourself. You don't have to make a paragraph. It's one line or one word. M is make your voice like you mean it, and the L is look like you mean it, or hold up your voice and your posture. CALM takes a lot of time, but a group of 6th grade girls came and said, "That's really brilliant." I said, "Good, good, go practice it."
I can't tell you how much this means to me because I do see, particularly young girls in this age area.
Yes.
They're jockeying, they're trying to figure out who they are because everything is changing about them. Uh, of course, the boys are too, but they're just a little bit later. So this is just terrific to have
Yeah, it
simple
seems to be.
strategies.
Yeah, no, it seems to be really helpful for girls in particular. They're at an age where comparison is huge.
Yeah,
Social media is making them, here's what you're supposed to look like, here's what you're supposed to do. But if you find your own strength, that sounds ridiculous, but it's so, so proven. You find the strength that works for you, at least you'll begin to have some faith in here's who I am. And then you get some strategy so you can hold your own when push comes to shove, and it will. Parents, it will. Kids are, we're talking at bullying just escalating. 20% of kids say that they're bullied. Just, it's going up, 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 and it's starting very often online and then going to on face to face. So just teach your kids a few skills, and it'll make such a difference in your child's life.
yeah. I'm
In
thinking about
ours
that.
too.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that AI conversation. If they'll never learn to deal with a bully with AI because AI is all programmed to be nice to you.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm
Exactly.
not suggesting we change AI and make them
Yeah.
bullies, but I was just thinking about that. You know, as you're talking also, I remember hearing so much right after COVID where teachers kept saying, our children have lost so much social learning. I
Yes.
did not, I have to tell you, Michele, I mean, I'm not ignorant of this, but I did not understand what that meant
Yeah.
until as I'm listening to you and all the
Yeah.
reading that I've done, I'm really beginning to understand that.
Madeline, I support you on that one. Working school after school district and actually around the world, I'm seeing the same thing. When I ask teachers, what is the biggest change you're seeing? And we're talking across the board from now it's TK to 12, it's social regression. And the most interesting thing is that kindergarten teachers are seeing the biggest change, that developmentally they're lagging. Kids are not having the social skills. TK teachers of 4-year-olds are saying the same thing. That's an alert mode that says when they're coming into school they're not prepared. It's one of the highest correlations to academic achievement is not your reading scores in kindergarten, it's friendship, getting along with
Friendship.
others.
And it goes back to what you said earlier in the program that it's parents who have to take the time with their children as well.
Yeah, they do. And we need to model it ourselves. We need to stop. We need to calm down. And we need to tell, boy, I did that one wrong, but here's what I can do next time with my friend. Or you can brainstorm together. Boy, I'm having a really tough time with, you can, no, some of the time make it up with one of my friends who's really been bullying me. What can I say to her, do you think? Which is a great way to get some of the interaction with your child. I spent a lot of time when I was writing Thrivers and on Selfie talking to teachers. And there's where I came up with, wow, we really need to rethink how to help our kids have a better future. And it starts now with recognizing that social competence is not soft and fluffy. It's
No,
transformational and it needs to be put back on the plate.
it does indeed. Wow. Well, we're just about out of time, but I did want to give you a chance to say any other particular thought that you want to make sure that my audience hears from you.
I think the most important thing is that social competence is teachable. It's not part of your DNA. It's something that we can work in. It's not something that's going to take a whole bunch of time, parents. I swear to you, it won't. What you need to do is be intentional. Sit and say, I'm going to weave in how to make an introduction, or I'm going to weave in how to say no, or I'm going to weave in stay cool, assert, look them in the eye, and sound like you mean it. And if you keep weaving it in, that's what makes the difference. And I want to end with one thing that we look at a lot of research, but the most profound piece of research I've ever found in the last few years was from Flanders. Madeline, they looked at 50,000 people across the world, different ages, and they looked at some of them who had strong mental health, Some of them had poor, weak mental health, and some of them who had really severe physical challenges. The question is, can we make a difference and improve mental health and well-being? And they found something that was remarkable. The answer was yes to any case, regardless if you already have it, you're weak and very poor or depressed, or you have severe physical challenges. What they discovered is what you do is find one, no more than three things that work for you, strengths that work for you. That one, no more than three things, relax parents. You practice the one, no more than three things, 1 to 3 minutes a day. And if you practice the same thing 1 to 3 minutes a day, whether it's look them in the eye or take the slow, deep breath or say, hi, how are you? Keep practicing. You can skip one day, but don't skip two. What happens is you adopt the skill. It becomes a lifetime skill. You can use it forever. And it's one more thing to build up your repertoire of your toolkit for resilience, and it'll help you handle life.
Michele Borba, thank you.
You're welcome.
Every now and then, there is something that changes how I think about the world. Grounds for Thought is a place where I talk about these moments so that you can explore the meaning for yourself.
Friendship has been confused today when we worry about the number of friends we have rather than those who care for us. Those you can depend on, have a mutual trust, and perhaps a fast affection or a shared experience. But what is so important to me is that friendship is something that we can choose. We can't choose our family, but we can choose our friends. As I thought about what Dr. Michele Borba talked about, there were three things that really struck me. First, children can learn how to make, keep, and choose friends from very early on. She has seen clear evidence that 3-year-olds understand empathy, the beginning of friendship. Second, parents can and should consciously help their children learn about friendship and how to do it. 3, there are easy to understand and remember steps to dealing with bullies. Number 1, children can learn. Our children from very, very early ages can be taught things about friendship. You model it, and part of modeling is sharing with your child about that and telling them, Jane is a really good friend of mine because she's always there when I call. Or I'm disappointed in Sudie because she didn't do what she said she was going to do, and yet she wants to be my friend. Examples that help the child define what characteristics real friends have. Number 2, as a parent, what you want to do is help your child get to the point where they can do it on their own. So even if that takes reminding them what a friend is or who your friends are and how they're experiencing a friendship or what they think is a friend, by doing that over and over again until the child can do it on their own. I always remember that my mother said that when you raise a child, it's not to make them like you. It's to prepare them to be able to function in the world. Michele's comments reminded me so much of that. Another is to help your child practice the steps, such as saying, hello, my name is. Again, doing it over and over until the child can do it themselves. 3, calm. CALM. When the child encounters someone who's acting like a bully, he or she remains cool, asserts themselves, looks the bully in the eye, and means it in their voice. Calm. It's a great mantra, even for me, let alone for the kids who learn it. One more thing. I also appreciated her comments about the potential influence of AI on our children. If a child uses an AI friend, they may think their friend is one who is always in agreement with them, always is nice to them, always is perfect, because that's how the AI will be programmed. But to learn about friends and friendship and what they mean and how to appreciate them is to have that opportunity of dealing with moments when your friend is not perfect, and yet they remain your friend. And you remain their friend because, in the end, their imperfection was not intended to hurt or harm you, your friendship. It's because they made a human mistake. Children can learn how to make, keep, and choose friends from very early, especially with practice. Parents can and should consciously help their children learn about friendship. Calm. And last but not least, AI friends are not friends. We can choose our friends, and we can choose to be a friend, and we can choose to keep a friend. With the right help, our kids can teach us about friendship. I'm Madelynblair, wishing you infinite possibilities as you unlock your resilient leader.